Let's bring in Carla Sands, America First Policy Institute. Thanks so much, Carla, for joining us. What are your thoughts about what I was just saying?
It's an amazing time, and this is an amazing moment that we all have to meet. Yes, I agree with you. I mean, if you want to talk about what's just been revealed, how they were trying to take President Trump out, it's so shocking. That's essential, I think, so it never happens again in our country. But I think it's a time to celebrate, Matthew. It's a time to celebrate the unbelievable accomplishments of President Trump and his administration over these past 6 months. Remember, they were all thinking about this for 4 years, and they've hit the ground running. And to look at what they've done for the American people, I could just start to list them off. The benefits, how eggs are at half the price they were under Joe Biden. Gas is at a 20-year low for summer driving. It's so exciting. The fact that there's up to $13,300 more in Americans' pockets because of President Trump. And already we've saved $2,100, the average family, just because of his deregulation on cars. I mean, on cars. And the fact that he stopped having 1.4 million illegals get illegal benefits. I mean, they were scamming and gaming the system. And the fact that he's getting the CDC right and the FDA right, taking the poison out of the food, of our food and the food for our children, and figuring out with the help of RFK Jr. why boys and girls, but especially boys, have so much autism. That didn't exist when I was a kid. It's the fact that they've already met their recruitment goals in America's military. Our U.S. service members are now focused on lethality and defending our country. It is a joyful time. We need to celebrate, take this day to really celebrate and take it all in. But then we need to go back in the trenches and go back. This is not easy because the left and the globalists, they never sleep. They never stop focusing on how can they gain more power and have more, it's hard to believe it, but more totalitarian control over free people. So this is a fight not just for us, but for our children and our children's children. It's never going to go away, just like evil never goes away, Matthew.
Exactly. And so to your point, the White House released the 20 core promises and the promises kept press release to the media just moments ago. So I'm going to go over some of those with you, get your reaction on that. But when we go over these 20 promises, to your point, there are so many great things to be happy about. I get that. But there's something I think over the past 6 months, I know it was like that for me, and I know it's like that for a number of people because I talk to them or I see what they say, is it's just that you feel this sense of we can really solidify and keep everything of these 20 promises for our country for not only these awesome 3.5 years, but moving forward, literally saving our entire country from the hands of the deep state. And let's just look at number one, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Already did it, right? How about under President Trump, the number of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border are at historic lows. Number two, carry out the largest deportation operation, already happening. And inflation happening. I mean, I can go on with the list here. I mean, I'm looking at the list on the other side of this camera. I mean, there's a lot there. But when you look at all the wins and celebrations, I get that. But do you feel that sense of, wow, they're really now going to possibly go after people that have broken the law against President Trump and against we the people? I don't know. Maybe it's a feeling of, ease or a release of, I'm trying to describe, I think, what a lot of people are feeling out there, Carla, because this is so real. This is a real thing. It's not just an interview with you and me. I know you know that, but I just feel relieved. That's the point. That
you mean relieved that President Trump is in office?
No, relieved that Tulsi Gabbard with the Department of National Intelligence and this weaponization against the people and against the president is actually happening. We've been talking about investigations and prosecutions if the investigation, shows the evidence and receipts, but that's what we do see already, that there is evidence for this. So I don't know. I think that a lot of the country right now is feeling that way. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, so I've been following this since 2017 when it began to, sort of they were breaking out. Even in 16, when President Trump said, look, my campaign's being bugged, they were surveilling him. That was a lay person's way of saying, I'm being surveilled. And that was coming out of the Obama White House and the intelligence community and spurred on by Hillary Clinton. So if we take a step and we just kind of walk through, they tried to take out his campaign with lies. They cooked this plot up in the White House, in the Oval, with Obama and Biden and James Comey. John Brennan was there. I believe Susan Rice was there. There were others. They cooked up a plan to take out an incoming president. This was after the election. I even posted on social media, I think it's either a seditious conspiracy or it's treason. And we know what we do with people who commit that. If we don't have consequences, real consequences for these people, they will do it again. They will do it to the next Republican president that they don't like, who's going to come in and change the leftist mandate. The march was happening under Biden and under Obama, right? The leftist march toward, well, for sure socialism, but it was kind of a communist socialist hybrid, because you can hear Mamdani say it. We don't want to have private property. They want to come and take your stuff.
But Carla, I want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but the freedom of speech and all of our freedoms, we were that close if Harris would have somehow won this thing. So that's my point, is all of that whole thing, this boulder of deep state, is what this government is seeing and has already known about.
Yes.
They say in number 9, it says, end the weaponization of government against the American people. Biden has worked to persecute political dissidents, including conservatives, Catholics, and other Christians, and opponents of his weaponized state. This abuse will be rectified, and it will be rectified very quickly. President Trump and the White House saying promises are kept. President Trump has purged corrupt elements from the DOJ and FBI, pardoned pro-life Americans wrongly targeted by the Biden administration, launched full-scale investigations into deep state abuses, bringing the era of weaponized government to an end, and restoring fairness and trust in American institutions. We still want, investigations are great, but if there's evidence, there has to be something more. And you can't beat the drum all day, and I get that, but if it happens, these reforms will be here. We can actually be made great again.
Yes, Obama was doing this stuff too. Very negative how he was targeting. Don't forget Lois Lerner and the IRS coming after every conservative organization. So this is a long time march and plot. But Matthew, even AFPI is launching lawsuits. Even last week, we launched lawsuits, and we need all the conservative organizations around the U.S. to sue to stop the behavior. It can't just be on President Trump and his DOJ's shoulders. It has to come from outside too. There just isn't enough bandwidth in the administration. We are many, so we need to absolutely suit up, put on the armor of God, go and get these bad actors, get them out, and then we have to salt the earth. We have to make sure they can't come back, and that means real consequences. If that means jail time for people, that's what it means. Never forget, they put in prison Steve Bannon, they put in prison others who, for a misdemeanor, they targeted J6ers and put them with no civil rights. They weren't even allowed to see counsel, to see family. They put them in the gulag. Let's not forget what they did. And this goes way back. Hillary Clinton did this stuff around Benghazi without the civil right protection that people have under the law. So let's get at this. Let's not, be prim and proper about this. Let's say we are doing the right thing as long as it is legal and we are upholding the law. We need to see this through and not just go, that was in the past. Let's look forward. No, this has to happen. Otherwise, it will get worse next time. It won't get better. And I just have to give a hat tip. And I know people are demonizing him. Elon Musk helped to save free speech when he bought Twitter. If he hadn't bought it, I think we would be in a very bad place. I don't even know if President Trump could have been elected without having that platform. even with his Truth Social. And I also want to alert your viewers that Europe is attempting to censor American free speech. Our weaponized government was working with foreign governments to censor speech from foreign shores onto the US. A lot of this started to happen under Obama's era because he repealed a law that didn't allow propagandizing Americans. Once that was repealed, then they tried to take over and propagandize Americans from within the US, from universities and CIS and CISA over at the Department of Homeland Security, but also from foreign governments. The UK, the EU is still attempting to censor our free speech even today. So this has to stop. And if you need to call your congressman and tell them you want this to stop, great. We want to make sure that we protect our First Amendment rights, our freedom of speech.
Amen. I want to read you a quote from someone on Truth Social, free to speak, and forgive me, I'm going to look off screen here and read it, but they say, agree 100%. There must be true justice. If they are simply allowed a light sentence or no punishment of any kind, they will not be afraid to pull something like this again in the future. We cannot allow them to freely walk away without facing true justice. And to that person's point there on Truth Social, I retruth that person because it's accurate. They were responding to Stephen Miller's post saying there must be justice for the acts of sedition and criminal conspiracy waged by the deep state against real Donald Trump and the United States. This isn't just against the president. This is actually against we the people. This is all of our, just imagine, if Carla, if say there was a coalition of people and visiting in China and we were all out there, everybody's out there and we're doing a live story interviewing you. And if you said something against, Xi Jinping or something, but you were a Chinese national, you wouldn't be able to do that. That would be a problem. We don't want that here in our country. And so when I talk about this isn't just about protect President Trump and the cabinet. This is all of us too. We want to be able to say something on Truth Social or on X and say, well, I think it should be done this way. The way you're doing it is not the right way. Some people might say, well, that's hate speech. The government says, you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to deal with any of that crap. And so that's why I'm being very real today with this, because this is a big thing for our country right now.
It's true. More speech is the answer to this. And I'll just caution you, there are European countries, it's not just China, European countries passing laws making it illegal to criticize politicians. Can you imagine? And there's also European countries that are censoring the conservative parties and trying to make them non-persons, no press. They're not allowed to be acknowledged in any way in the public space. They're not allowed to participate in the government in the way fulsomely that they should be able to. Well, that's what they tried to do to Republicans and President Trump. I'll never forget the speech that Joe Biden gave when he raised his hands with those Marines over his shoulders and the red color looking so demonic in front of, I think it was in Philadelphia. And he was saying that we should not be welcome in the public square, that we should not be able to be, it was kind of a war cry, a call to war against half the country, because, more than half the voters voted for President Trump. People forget that. Don't forget it. He has a lot of people supporting him. And with his success, with working so hard on behalf of all Americans, his popularity is now at an all-time high between 50 and 52%. It's fantastic. He's more popular than Barack Obama, and with good reason. Barack Obama did everything for himself and for the left. President Trump works hard for every American. And the lowest waged people in America are actually having 30-year highs increases in their wages. They're doing better. And one of the reasons why, I think, is because President Trump is sending the illegals out of the country, and 1 million of them have self-deported. But I think most of your viewers want to see this accelerate. We want them out. Yeah,
this has to be pedal to the metal. I was watching some race car video the other day. It was some awesome Swedish race car, and it was driving around the track, and it was like this multi-million-dollar car. And I'm thinking, man, this is what President Trump and this administration needs to do. We got to go pedal to the metal with this. And why? Is it just so we can puff our chest out and be like, look how badass we are? No, I'm saying because we want our freedoms to be restored and kept in this country forever. We want this Constitution to be the law of the land forever. And here are the ways that we can get it done. And so that's, I think, what we're all wanting to see happen here. Carla, I know we were going to talk about the accomplishments over the past 6 months, but those are great, but I want to keep them for years and years and years to come. And I believe part of that is to hold people accountable that have broken the law.
Yes, we have to have consequences. I mean, it's essential to, I would say, every person's sense of moral right. If there are no consequences, I think we lose the midterms. If we do not send those illegals out, and the ones that have not overstayed or have a right to apply to come back, let them do it in a legal manner. But we want skilled labor here. If we need to send them out, if we don't send them out, and there are some in Congress saying we need some kind of amnesty light, we will lose the midterms. And if you want to see President Trump impeached on day one after the midterms, then don't secure the border and send the illegals out, and don't have consequences for these lawbreakers. And we are not a third world banana republic. We are the United States of America. Barack Obama, the former president, targeted his political adversary. Joe Biden, now senile and incapable of defending himself, I think, targeted and tried to take out his political rival and the people around him. And I'll just say one more thing. All of those auto pen, when they pardoned all those folks, some I think were on death row, put them back. If Joe Biden didn't sign that, if some staffer did, staffers don't have the right to pardon, only U.S. presidents.
Exactly. And just one more point I want to bring up with you here, Carla. And those of you watching right now, thanks so much for streaming. And if you watch, from time to time here on RSBN Live, specifically me, Matthew Alvarez, I'm not always like, hey, go get them, but hey, Stephen Miller's saying to go do this. We're seeing President Trump talk about Adam Schiff in this way as well. I mean, this is something that I think is really echoing the sentiment of the majority of this country in order to keep us safe and keep the Constitution the law of the land. Last point I wanted to make was to your point earlier, when Joe Biden was outside of Independence Hall in Philadelphia with, to your point, the red lights and the Marines standing back there. I'm sure those two Marines, to be honest with you, they're probably like, oh God, I got to do this. I want Trump. Do you remember what it's like when President Trump's at the commander-in-chief ball and all these, he goes to West Point and delivers that speech and how excited the troops are for him? I mean, come on, right? But to the point though, he was outside, Joe Biden, of our Independence Hall, where the founding fathers are that's where it all started, the birth of freedom. And that's where he stands and says, MAGA Republicans? Yeah. What?
MAGA Republicans. Yeah, it's so true. But, I don't want to throw more into the mix right now, but just it occurred to me that J6 committee was so that President Trump could never be reelected again. And it was to really damage the Republicans for a century. And so I think that's another thing. It was done illegally. There was no due process involved. And what they did and how they destroyed evidence, I think that has to be something. I know there's only so much bandwidth at our DOJ, but I think that those pardons were done by AutoPen. They weren't done by Joe Biden's hand. Only his son's pardon was done by his own hand. And so, okay, let that stand. And the rest of them, they had better lawyer up.
Carla Sands, America First Policy Institute, thanks so much for joining us from the Northeast.
Thanks.